I just wanted to talk a little bit today about, I suppose, the background to the heritage information feeding into this project. As some of you will know, I manage the Worcester City Historic Environment Record, which is the database of all known archaeological sites, historic buildings and monuments within the city of Worcester. It's part of a network of historic environment records, or HERs as I'll call them, so that my teeth don't fall out, across the country. Worcester City is just one small part of those, and we actually share a platform with the Worcestershire Historic Environment Record, and you'll be hearing from Pete Insole shortly, who manages the Bristol City HER. So just to give you a bit of an idea of what that looks like, this is a screenshot of the main what we call Geographical Information System, or GIS, within the HER. And that is a digital mapping program over which we can overlay various types of information. So for instance, on my next slide, you'll see a number of sort of crosses, points and polygons across that map. Each one of those is a piece of information. So if you clicked on one of those, it would take you through to information about an archaeological site there, a historic building, and all sorts of other sources that are attached to that record. We're going to be focusing more during this project on getting our historic maps online and our historic photographs online. And as you may have seen in the press and via our lockdown quizzes and things, we've got a fantastic collection of historic photos. Just going on to the next slide. So I should just go back to that slide actually. So just to point out where we are. So we're actually talking to you today from the Studdert Kennedy building alongside City Walls Road. So we are, if my cursor works, we are just here. So I thought I would use that as our starting point, just to give you a little walking tour. So there we are, that's our 4th edition Ordnance Survey map overlaid on the modern map. You can see that we're in the area of what was the historic Blockhouse in the city. A few of you may remember that. We've had a few memories coming through on that. And that was an area of the city that was cleared in the late 1950s into the 1960s, after the advent of the 1957 Housing Act, which basically said that houses ought to be fit for people to live in. So not unreasonable, I don't think. No. So it did mean, unfortunately, that huge swathes of the city, Victorian housing, a lot of our industrial heritage and things in those areas were cleared at that point. And you can see just the density of housing and buildings in that area up until the 1960s. So I've just put a little yellow asterisk there, which is marking the spot that we're in. And it occurred to me the other day, I was slightly early for our test run in the sort of Kennedy building here. So I thought I'd go for a little wander around the blockhouse and around the block in the blockhouse, in fact, and just get a feel for how it is today and sort of reflecting on some of those photographs that we have in our collection. We're very fortunate within the Worcester City HER that we have this incredible collection of historic images. They're all photographs that have been taken by former officers of the City Council, so planning officers, conservation officers. As you'll see from a lot of the images that I'm sharing today, our Chief Public Health Inspector, prior to that clearance of the blockhouse area, went round and took photos and talked to a lot of people. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of a feel for that resource, really, because it's a lot of those photographs that will be appearing on the Know Your Place platform, which Peter's going to talk to you in a bit more depth about shortly. So I'm inviting you to come on a little walking tour with me around our historic map here. So we're starting off here on the end of, I'm pointing at the screen. I don't want to point at the screen. I'll use my cursor. We're starting off here at the end of Bowling Green Terrace. So There we are. I've blown the map up slightly and taken the modern map out, so it's a little bit clearer for you. So there we are at the south end of Bowling Green Terrace and the corner of Blockhouse Street. And there's Bowling Green Terrace looking northwards along the street there in about 1960. So as I said, the majority of these photos are the ones that were taken by our Chief Public Health Inspector, Tom Marsden, during that time. And we've recently acquired these images into the museum's Worcestershire collection and been able to digitise them onto the HER as part of this project. So we're just going to have a little wander now, a little bit further along the street to the junction with Spring Gardens. And you can see there on the right-hand side is the turn into Spring Gardens, and directly in front of you, the British School, which is just off the top of the map there. So turning right along Spring Gardens, along to the end, to the junction with St Paul's Street, and we're looking left down the street, down St Paul's Street. Almost opposite us there is James Street with a little corner shop there. So we're now going to turn right along St Paul's Street and right into Providence Street. And I believe, someone can correct me here, I may be wrong, I believe this is the St Paul's Infant School, because you've got the other school just to the north of St Paul's Church on the map there. So I use my cursor. So this is the school we're looking at, the St Paul's Church, and then to the north another school. So I believe this is the infant school and this is the junior school, but I may have got that the wrong way around, so do correct me if I'm wrong. So from the same standing point, so looking across the other way to the school, you can see it's already at that point in the process of demolition. And then looking left down Providence Street, right down to the end, to the junction of Temperance Street at the end. On the left-hand side, you've got the Providence Tin Box Manufactory, and on the right, the turning into Blockhouse Street with the Old England Public House on the corner, and on the corner nearest to us, another corner shop that is looking a little bit abandoned by that point. So just wandering to the junction with Blockhouse Street there and looking back, we've got that corner shop again, and in the background there, the school. So if we turn into Blockhouse Street, you can see a few more of the houses there, and in the background you can just see the top of St Paul's Church. If you look at the map, so we're standing about here, you've got this dog leg in Blockhouse Street. So we're just going to have a little wander around the corner now and look back on ourselves. And you can see there's a young chap possibly on his way to school there. Looks like he's wearing a school uniform, wearing his school shorts and his cap, and just poking out above the top of the houses again, St Paul's Church. So we're now going to wander in the direction of this young man who's wandering down towards Bowling Green Terrace again. And you can just see there the Bowling Green Terrace along the end of Blockhouse Street. So we're next going to turn slightly left and right and look along Nash's Passage. You need to be able to say that, don't you? It's no good saying that after a couple of gins. But we're just looking along Nash's Passage there. And sorry, Tash, what was that? Is someone trying to?
No, I said dare you to try to.
Oh, dare you to try. Yes, that's okay. So we're just looking along Nash's Passage there. Obviously, part of that now survives on the other side of City Walls Road. So the houses that we're looking at now are pretty much in the middle of the dual carriageway. Away in the distance there are the original Nash's Arms houses, which have now been replaced by 1960s buildings, but are still arms houses. And then you've got your another corner shop on the end there, with the Players Please sign, so nice cigarette advertising there. And we're just going to now have a little wander into Nash's Passage and stand at the entrance to this little alleyway behind the houses of Temperance Street. No, we're not. I forgot about this one. Before we do that, we're going to look down Temperance Street, and you're looking there at the Providence tin box manufactory again. This is a photo from our conservation officers collection. So this one was taken in 1951, and you can just see the ladies there possibly stacking tin cans into the back of a delivery wagon, having a little bit of a chat on the street. That's a nice sort of evocative image there. So now we're going to have a wander into Nash's Passage. I'm saying that too many times, and having a look down the alleyway at the back of Temperance Street. And you can see just how cramped those little sort of backyards are there. If you have a look in the sort of centre of the picture, there are a couple of characters there. You may not be able to see very clearly, and we're going to have a little zoom in on that. So there we are. These photos warrant a little bit more attention. And you have a lady standing, hanging out her washing. There's a few Terry's nappers and things hanging up there. You may just about be able to see that there is a pram in the middle there, and even less easy to see, but there's another figure just sitting down next to the pram. And what we seem to have found with this collection of photos and Tom Marsden's photography, was that he was going out talking to people as he was doing this sort of survey of the areas that were due for demolition, and looking at the conditions. He was obviously talking to people about their experiences, because he does stop to chat to this lady. So if we go to the next photo, we've got this beautiful photo of the baby in the pram, mum looking on in the background with a pile of washing there. And then in the next photo, it looks almost identical. But if you look in the background there, you've got mum again, and I think perhaps she had a bit of a late night with the baby there. She's laying her head down on the washing in the background. So really lovely vintage image there. Moving on to the next one, here she is again, holding the baby. Again, really sort of evocative image. You've got the tin bath hanging on the wall behind her, all of the cloth nappies hanging on the line, and a little doll's pram in the background as well. And some of you may have seen that this photograph was published in the Worcester News on Wednesday. We had a nice sort of double page feature spread in the newspaper. And we appealed to the public to see if we could identify this lady, because it's always nice to know who these people are, and perhaps be able to sort of send those photos on to them. And within about two hours of the newspaper being put out to in print form, I had a message from a chap who recognised the lady, and her name was June Jones, maiden name Roberts. The baby that she's holding there is baby Debbie, and he actually put me in touch with June's older daughter. I think it's her older daughter, Kerry, who was able to identify that this photo was from Temperance Street, because we didn't know until that point. So it's nicely located it in time for this presentation. So it was really lovely to be able to put names to faces. Sadly, June died in the 1980s, so she's no longer with us, but both Debbie and Kerry are still living in Worcester, and we've now been able to reunite them with these lovely images of their family. And just moving on to the next picture, we've got Grandma there holding the baby, perhaps there to help Mum out while she's getting on with the household chores. So just really lovely to be able to pick up these stories from the collection. And to remind you where we are, we're here in Temperance Street. If I go back to the modern map, there we are again, and the site of Temperance Street is just there, right in the middle of the Providence Street car park. Here it is when I was on my little wander on Wednesday. I actually, one might call it Providence, in fact, that I happened to take a photo from that exact location across the car park. So that's how it looks today. So this obviously it's lovely to be able to do something like that, and I've thrown those slides together for the workshop today. But moving forward, we're obviously really keen for that to be done with all of our photos and to make those available online for the first time. There are around 35,000 of these images, and we're really excited about the opportunity to get those online with our historic maps. And we're going to be able to do that in collaboration with our colleagues in Bristol City Council.